Hey guys, Scott and Christy here with our
Marriage message.
marriage message. um, we're going to be talking about Mother's Day and that kind of stuff and relationships today. I'm going to be reading out of the Message because it's the most colloquial version. King James was the most colloquial of its day. This is the most colloquial of our day.
Starting in Ephesians 5:21.
And in the Message it says, "Out of respect for Christ, be courteously reverent to one another. Wives, understand and support your husbands in ways that show your support for Christ. The husband provides leadership to his wife the way Christ does to his church, not by domineering, but by cherishing. So just as the church submits to Christ as he exercises such leadership, wives should likewise submit to their husbands. Husbands, go all out in your love for your wives, exactly as Christ did for the church." And he did go all out. "A love marked by giving, not getting. Christ's love makes the church whole. His words evoke her beauty. Everything he does and says is designed to bring the best out of her, dressing her in dazzling white silk, radiant with holiness. And that is how husbands ought to love their wives. They're really doing themselves a favor since they're already one in marriage. No one abuses his own body, does he? No, he feeds and pampers it. That's how Christ treats us, the church, since we are a part of his body. And this is why a man leaves father and mother and cherishes his wife. No longer two, they become one flesh. This is a huge mystery, and I don't pretend to understand it all. What is clearest to me is the way Christ treats the church. And this provides a good picture of how each husband is to treat his wife, loving himself in loving her, and how each wife is to honor her husband."
We're going to back up a little bit to those first few verses about wives submit to your husbands. That is one of those things that most women are like, what? I'm not doing that. Especially in today's society, we look at that as that we're being less than, that we're not being honored, we're not being appreciated for the gifts and the talents that we have.
Or you'll do it out of, okay, if he does this, then I'll do that.
But wives, submit to your husbands as to the Lord. What that means is if your husband is trying to get you to knock off a local convenience store, no, that's not fitting to the Lord. You're such a goof. That's not fitting to the Lord, and you don't do something like that. If your husband is leading you in a godly way, then those things you submit to. It's not about whether or not you're getting your way, or whether or not he's giving you the budget to go shopping, or whether or not you get to go and pamper yourself all the time, or whatever. It's about, is he trying to lead you in a godly way? And if that's the case, then there is a submission that needs to happen. But in order to do that, we need to understand what it is to submit to Christ. If our entire life is being led by serving ourselves, being concerned about me, myself, and I, not trying to serve other people, serving the broken, then we're not going to be able to do that within the context of our marriage.
Right.
Our husbands, wives, and I'm sure every one of you know this already, they're humans. They struggle just like anybody else. They struggle like the people that we're trying to reach out to in the mission field, whether that is the mission field, overseas, or the mission field in our own communities, or within our own family. They have a different set of struggles typically than what women do. They're made by God to be the protector, the provider. That brings a whole different level of challenges in their submission to Christ than what ours are typically, with the nurturing and wanting to, smooth everything out, not have conflict. We approach things differently. God put us together specifically so that we could balance each other out and complete each other. Sometimes those roles are reversed depending on, look at your own marriage and figure out what your role is within the marriage. But recognize that your husband isn't always going to be perfect. They're not always going to be in the mode that we know that they maybe should be, or that we hope for them to be. But that doesn't dismiss our role as their wife to support them and love them and honor them.
Right.
If we want them to respond to us in a way that is loving and compassionate and kind in general, then we can't be like what Solomon refers to in Proverbs is a nagging wife is like dripping water. And he says it over and over. Now, he had a lot of wives and
Thousands.
lot more concubines. But with that, he recognized that was something that was an approach not to take. We have to check ourselves and make sure that as we're approaching our husbands, that we are submitting ourselves to what God would have us do in those situations and how to handle it.
Men want respect, more so than love usually. By respecting us, you show us you love us. And most men agree with that. Guys, there's different kinds of different styles of leadership. Leading your wife is not like leading troops or leading, we've all had bosses who bark at us, whether it's in the military or in corporate life, whatever. But your wife is not, she's not your soldier. She's not your
employee,
your underling. She's not below you. She's beside you. It comes from God to me across to my wife. My wife is my helpmate. And then it goes down to the children. Helpmate, that's an interesting word. It doesn't mean that, if she helps me, that's great, but I get the job done without her. Helpmate means the job will not get done without my wife. It takes the two of us as one to get this thing called life, the mission, whatever mission God has got for us, even if it's just simply glorifying Him. All of us should be doing that. But the thing is, you can't do it without her. You can't leave her behind and march on. You've got to stay together, and you've got to do it step by step, taking the path together, the same path together. Now, there's, you see that submit word, and people, that's a bad word, but it's submitting as is fitting to the Lord. If we're not following Christ, then there's really no obligation for her to follow us. And that's just the way it is.
Verse 25, husbands, this is the NIV version. Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with the water through the word, and to present her to himself as a radiant church, without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. Everybody who's received salvation, who has received the love of Christ, who even understands what that means, we recognize, or hopefully recognize, that there is nothing that we could have done to earn it. There is absolutely nothing that we did that made us good enough or better than somebody else to receive that love, to receive the salvation. In fact, it was quite the opposite. We were in such a decayed state that we had to go to Him who went to the cross, who died specifically for us, without us ever even acknowledging that we needed Him, or that you know what I'm saying. When he sacrificed Himself, everybody was, not everybody, but the majority of the people were going after Him, and they wanted that to happen. They were themselves stained with sin. And
you find that in the line, "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." Mm-hmm. They had no idea what they were doing. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No.
So think about your wives. Think about those things. I know that I frustrate Scott. I know I do. And for the most part, he's pretty gentle with me. And even if he's got to be a little bit more stern, he's never demeaning to me. He doesn't put me down and make me feel like I'm not worth his love, that I'm not good enough for him. That's a really important part of leading your wife in a way that she will respond to you. You're supposed to lay your life down, and that's not me saying that. That's the word saying that. That's what God says. that you literally lay down your life. So let's say hypothetically you've got a wife that you're coming out home after a hard day's work, and then she hasn't gotten dinner ready, or the clothes aren't done, or whatever is the situation. Let's say that she's nagging. Let's say all those stereotypical things that a lot of husbands get frustrated with their wives about. Let's say all of those things are true and present in your marriage. How much are you going to lay yourself down for her and try to lead her through loving her, through being patient, through trying to help her to become more and support her in whatever area she's weak in? It's not just the wives that are supposed to be understanding in the husband's areas of weakness and in their areas of growth. It goes both ways. We've asked several people before, and we were challenged with this question ourselves years ago. What is the purpose of marriage? What is the purpose of us becoming one? And from everything that we have read in the Word, the number one purpose is to learn how to love each other unconditionally and help each other get there. Help each other to keep going back to God over and over and over in the midst of our struggles.
Another way of putting it is, because we are two very different people, physically, mentally, and spiritually, in every way, the two of us becoming one glorifies God. It shows that the plan that He put into place with Adam and Eve was a perfect plan.